Hello, this is Coach Xander Titan. Today we're going to take flight into a review, and we're taking flight into Sky Team, prepare for landing. So let's just get straight into this 13-hour flight.
To set up Sky Team, you will be placing the board in the center of the table and putting the altitude track and the approach track like this. And then you will be placing planes on the approach track, matching the number of planes in the side of the box. And then you'll also be placing reroll tokens in the altitude track like this. Then you'll be placing wooden markers on the matching color on the board like that. Then you'll be placing the buttons in their spot, making sure they're covering the green light like that. And you'll also be placing 3 coffee cups next to the table. Then you'll be placing your plane access disc in this circle here, making sure the arrow is pointing straight up. Each player will get a player shield and 4 dice. The pilot will get the blue player shield and 4 blue dice, and the co-pilot will get the yellow shield with the orange dice. And that completes setup. The goal of the game is to prepare your plane for landing before it reaches its destination. To do this, each player will be rolling their dice behind their player shield secretly to prepare for each round. To prepare the plane, they will be placing dice on the board. Now, the blue dice have to be placed only in the blue spots. This here would be blue and orange, and the orange dice can only be placed on the orange spots. During the round, when they're placing their dice, the co-pilot and pilot are not allowed to speak, only before the dice placement begins. Now let's go over what the dice do. First thing and most important are these 2 spots. This spot here is for keeping your plane level, the axis of your plane. So say the blue player placed a 5 here. At some point in the round, the orange player has to place a dice here, and they want to make sure that it stays level. So if the orange player placed the 1 dice, then it would tick over the difference of these 2 dice. So this would actually go past the red X, so you would crash your plane and you would lose the game. So the orange player would want to place something maybe like the 3, so then it would only go 1, 2 over, and you would still be level enough to continue going. Now, the other place that has to happen every round is the speed of your plane. When placing dice here, it will determine how quickly you approach your destination. So if it is behind the blue marker here, this will not move down at all. If it is between the orange and the blue markers, it will move down 1. If it is above the orange marker, it will move down 2. If there's ever a point where you have to move approach track forward and there is a plane in the box, you immediately crash and lose the game. Also, if the plane ever reaches 0 before it hits the destination, you also crash and lose the game. So just to show you how this works, if I placed a 6 here and orange placed a 1 there, then it would be 7, so it would just move 1. The pilot is responsible for the landing gear. And so when placing a dice, it has to match the numbers here. So I could do a 5 or a 6 here. So if I put that there, then this would move over. Turning that on would move this track 1 space over, which makes it harder to move your plane a single box. Now on the other side of the board, the co-pilot will be responsible for the flaps. Placing a dice in one of these spots turns the button on, but also moves the orange marker, which makes it harder to move 2 boxes. The pilot is also responsible for controlling the brakes. Now, he would place dice here to move this tracker forward, and he has to do these ones in chronological order. So after he places the 2, the next round he could place a 4 and then a 6. Now, this just determines how fast the plane can be going in the final round when landing the plane. Now, I talked about earlier about the planes, and if it ever moved into the box that has a plane, you would lose the game. Well, how do you get rid of those planes? Well, you actually would put dice in one of these spots here. The co-pilot actually has one extra over the pilot, so they can actually remove more planes than the pilot can. So if I place the 2 here, I would count 1, 2, and then I would remove that plane. Now, the last spot that I haven't talked about yet is this one that has blue and orange, and it has a little coffee marker, which is supposed to help you with your concentration. So let's say I ended up placing a dice down here. It doesn't matter what number, it just puts a coffee cup in that little spot there. And so later on in the game, if you were placing a dice and you had a 4, say you had a 4 and you wanted to place a dice here to move that over, you could actually use a coffee cup to move it up to a 5. And that is helping you concentrate to do what you need to do. Now, the other thing that I didn't mention is when there is one of these reroll tokens in the box that is in this area, you actually put it over here, and that lets, at any time during the round, they can use this token to re-roll their dice. Once you have placed all your dice, you will retrieve all your dice. Then you will talk about what you need to accomplish. For instance, making sure the plane token doesn't move this direction anymore, so this dice would want to be higher. And then you'll re-roll your dice and continue preparing your plane. Now, to land your plane, you have to make sure all of these plane tokens are removed. You want to make sure that this is all the way down when this one moves into there. This one has to be there when that's there. You also have to make sure your plane is completely level for landing. So the last round, it has to be completely level. You want to make sure all your buttons are switched on for the landing gear and the flaps. And then for, depending on where your brakes are, like if you hadn't moved this at all, you would not be able to land. But if you were here and you had that turned on, you would have to have a 1 and a 1 here. And if you had all of these on, you would just have to make sure your speed is under 6. And if you have accomplished all these goals on the last round, you will win the game. And that is how you play SkyTeam. Just to note, there are modules in the game in this flight log book that vary the game. Make it more difficult, give you different things to focus on, but I'll leave that for you guys to discover later.
So what I like about SkyTeam Prepare for Landing is, number one, I think the theme works very well. I like how it's so dramatic and it's like, oh, we have to land the plane as perfectly as we can and we have to do everything perfectly or the plane will crash. It's like, I love that drama factor in this game. I'm pretty sure they even have like a high drama on the box, which is kind of funny. And also, it makes sense that this would be a 2-player cooperative game. And I think they made good use of it being a 2-player cooperative game because, like, it makes sense. There's a pilot and there's a co-pilot. It's not like there's, like, 7 other pilots or anything. Another thing I like are the components. I really like how there's, like, dual-layer boards, which are super nice. And it has some nice wooden pieces. And also, it kind of looks like a cockpit of a plane, which I like. So it's kind of getting immersive in that way. Another thing I really like, I think the front of the box and like the sides of the box have really nice art, but it doesn't really show inside the box. A lot of the inside of the box is just like right here. There's not much cool looking art as there is. So, I mean, and I get it, there's no cards or anything that can show that, but I just wish there was a little bit more artistic things. And also, I like how this helps my strategic ability because I don't have my dad to rely on. You have to be completely silent in this game, and usually my dad helps me with my decisions. And this helps me decide and make better decisions, which I also like a lot. And I feel like there's a lot of games that there's so many decisions that you have to make and it's like overwhelming. But there's also games like Point Salad where I feel like could be a little more, you're only making like a decision really. But this game, I really like how they do it. Like you're making decisions, but by the end of the round, the decisions kind of wane down a little bit because you're getting tasks done, which I like. It feels like accomplished, like I've accomplished the greatness. Another thing I like is how this is like a little campaign that you can do with like 2 players. If you have someone else in your house, you don't need to get 4 other people for a D&D thing. And it's expanding on a game that can be pretty hard at the start, but once you play it a few times, it gets a lot easier, and then you're like, well, what next? But they do have next. They have more and harder levels, which I like, and it would get a little boring if we just won every time anyways. And you might be asking me, Oliver, do you like this game? Of course. I think it's a great game, and I wasn't really, when I was going into the game, it wasn't a game that I was super hyped about. Like, usually when we get Kickstarter games and stuff, it's like, oh, I'm super excited to play this. But, I mean, Redwood, an exception, and my dad's going to make a short about that. But I didn't expect to like this game a lot because, I mean, it's not necessarily a super fancy game or anything. But I think the gameplay is really fun and engaging and really realistic and works well thematically. And that's about it. Outro. If you like this review, please make sure to smash the subscribe button, smash the like button, and smash the notification bell. If you want to see more content like this, like more long form videos like this one, or short form videos, or even live streams. Also, check out my Linktree. You can get links to my socials like my Facebook and Instagram, where I post behind the scenes photos. And also check out my Dice Tower playlist, where you can see all my appearances on the Dice Tower, and of course my merch store, where you can get some comfy clothing. Alright, that is all for today.